Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Randall George Mazawa. They call me the bounce back blind guy. And welcome to New Enlightened Lifestyle Medicine. Oh, please welcome co-host Patrick Herbert. Hi, Patrick.
Hi, I'm the guy that's always forgotten about when you first say those first lines.
But we're all welcome you. Hey, by the way, everyone, thank you all for tuning in and supporting the channel, and you're part of the Nelm tribe, so I appreciate that. As you know, what we try to do is our intention is to deliver truth to all of you so you can make better decisions for yourself and for your families. Okay, and the content behind that, or intention behind that, is that we want to educate, inspire, and empower all of you to live your greatest lives and highest expression. And all of that is rich in love, peace, joy, harmony, abundance, gratitude, inclusion, and contribution. And truth to us is very important, and especially in times like this. If you haven't noticed, these past 7 months, full of lies, full of deceit, and we have this greater force, greater than our government. It's the stuff that runs the government. Some call it Nazis, some call it the empire, some call it the elite corporate 1%. But they're making a move, and they're increasing their stranglehold over us, which is enslavement by false information and keeping us divided. It's time we take a stand. And like Patrick will tell you, it's do you want to live like a slave, or do you want to live free? And so there's a price to everything. That said, we have a very special guest here today, a guy that I met on LinkedIn, and I meet a lot of people on LinkedIn, but his profile was so special to me that I had to look it up. I had to read everything that he had there, and I even got the chance to talk to the guy. Okay, this is Tim Nolan from Minnesota. Okay, and anyway, like Patrick, like Bob Charles, the owner of Pyramid One, like John Rappaport, like David Icke, like Sarah G. These are all researchers, and what they do is report truth. And a lot of it is medical and nutritional, and the other is just world news of what's really true out there, because you don't quite get the whole story, as Patrick will tell you, from the major news channels, NBC, ABC, CNN, like constantly negative news, whatever that means, because they have their own agenda. Ours is to deliver truth. And what I noticed about Tim after reading his, all his background, his stuff, and then chatting with the guy, whoa, just totally informed and just a researcher. He dives deep into everything, and his was truth. And like all of us here on this call, we've all had to overcome some pretty large physical things. I call it adversity, and thusly the name of my signature program, Transforming Adversity into Opportunity. But that all has led us here, and I think we become stronger and smarter because of that, and we want to share a lot of that with you, and to basically enlighten you, and the basis of the show. But anyway, Tim, welcome, and thanks for making it. And I think I'm going to we're going to do another show with Pyramid One on Friday, I think, if you're around.
Right.
But, okay, and then yeah. But can we start off by with you just going over a bit of your background, from what you can remember from your early, earliest childhood to throughout the your teen years, and that crossroads you came to when you had that chance or that desire to go to medical school, but you didn't, and you'll have to tell us why. And from what you do now, because your knowledge, like Patrick's, so rich in truthful knowledge, and you share that to make other people's lives better. And I think that's so critical, because a lot of folks out there, our fellows in the herd, are misinformed or uninformed, and everyone kind of just barreling on that way. But we have a time right now where we need to take a stand. We need to get truthful. We need to connect with one another. We need to share more actual love and to work together, literally work together, because our country, I believe, is in jeopardy. We have the wrong people running it. And we need the people here to make a difference, but we have to become leaders, which you are, Tim, and so is Patrick, and that's why I kind of like hanging around with you guys. But anyway, Tim, take it away here, and then tell us about your background and what has gotten you here today.
Thanks, Doc. My name is Tim Nolan. I'm a great-grandson of an early pioneer. My great-grandfather provided the first horse-drawn ambulance to the then Minneapolis City Hospital in 1894. But fast forwarding to my earliest recall was at the age of 3. My Uncle Pat was home on a special early Christmas. He was a B-17 pilot in World War II. And then the conversation like it was in the now, my dad said, Pat was hesitant about going back. The dad said, you have to go back. So anyway, the night he reported icing leaving 6 for 9,000, Mom said Dad sat up in bed. That was December 30th, 1944. Dad sat up in bed. Something's happened to Pat, and that came to haunt my father for the rest of his life. And I finally, when I did the timeline and why he was the way he was, he went overboard because that haunting of Pat, his Uncle Pat, his brother Pat not coming back. That was the start of his consumption about what was going on. But anyway, I get in fast forward at the age of 5, hockey was my passion. And I was playing hockey with the big kids at the age of 9. And then I was played in the Pee Wee hockey tournament and then also the Catholic Conference. And my life was really on a roll. And then I went out for the track and I was 6th in the state, the 100-yard dash my freshman year. I received the military silver medal from the Chicago Tribune, the military proficiency at St. Thomas Academy. Friends of mine said, why are you playing hockey there? Let's come over to Edina. That's where we all grew up and all that. But anyway, I left the academy and went to hockey, played hockey with my friends. I was with the team in 1957 at the St. Paul Auditorium, which is just about a 12-minute walk from here. Now it's all part of the Excel. But anyway, I was really on a roll, but there was also these speed bumps that come into play. And having that football injury in 1956 and being prescribed the Dilantin the rest of my life. And I was in the hospital the whole month of October of 1956. And then I did all the procedures and was released and all that kind of stuff. But that definitely put me on my mind on a tilt. But anyway, finally, that I was on the hockey team, and January 17th, 1959, I was on a lone break, and anytime I get around the goal, I usually would score, and somebody slid a stick, and also I slid into the boards, and boom, that was the end of my hockey career. My neurologist's son and I played hockey together, and he rode into the ambulance. And the next day, Lily home, terrific, and went over Edina. Nolan hurt. It was big caps in this sporting section. But anyway, I at the Edina, I had celebrated in English, and I wrote a paper, The Brain and Its Function. And my will be done was to be a neurosurgeon. And I was started out in pre-med at the University of Minnesota. And October 9th, 1960, I survived a near-fatal car accident. I was in and out of consciousness. We lost him, but we have room to just take him with us. Then I had near-death experiences like in an amphitheater, a bright light behind me. And all of a sudden they said I could hear the slam banging around. We're losing, we're losing, we're losing. That's what did the tracheotomy. I got the souvenir to remind me of that. But anyway, I lost half my teeth. And the doctor the oral surgeons were hesitant, in a hurry, they went to wear my jaw and they set it in a cross plate. Even a dentist, you'd understand that, what I'm talking about there. Yeah. But anyway, it's the first time I heard Dr. Kelly was also, was the physician that did all my suturing. They had different hockey injuries. He was hockey North Star's physician. But anyway, that's the first time I heard him swear. He came in the room and said, how's it going? They went ahead and wired my jaw with a crossbite. I had a nerve exposed about the line of the eye tooth that was dangling. And anyway, so for 6 weeks and 6 weeks only, I walked around. All my uppers went through here. My lowers came out here. And I had the space right here. I could just slurp. I lived on chicken broth for those 6 weeks. But anyway, the dentist I had this perfect mouth. I had to show my mouth when I was in the Marines, and all the dentists on the base. And I saw Dr. Westerdahl cry. He said, Tim, you have the most beautiful mouth. I said, where are we going to start? So anyway, for 2 months, and let's see, for six months, 2 hours every other day for the 6 months in reconstructed my mouth. He won a national award. Had all this other, I had all the gold, I had all the other, I had 11-tooth banjo bridge here and all that, and all the porcelain jackets and all that stuff. But anyway, so I was in pre-med, like I said, and all of a sudden I became that close to death, I came consumed by death. And back in the curriculum is still the same. Mortuary science and pre-med are the same because they want the morticians to be able to explain to the family on a medical process that goes on. So anyway, I had enough credits, and I left the University of Minnesota and went with a friend of mine down to Dallas, Gumpton Jones in Dallas, Texas. That's where I did my embalming, because Gordy and I thought we want to go right to the source. The book about embalming was written by the professor at Gumpton Jones, so we went right to the source. But anyway, I was there. This is where life gets kind of interesting. O'Neill Funeral Home was looking for somebody with ambulance experience. And O'Neill Funeral Home was one of the major players on the public execution of Kennedy back in 1963. And while I was working there, we had the funeral for the vice president, not the regional, but vice president of Johnson & Johnson Pharmaceutical. He was dying of cancer in a hospice right down the street. The family said, we want the absolutely best casket you have. And so Joe and I went to National Casket Company and brought back this heavy casket. It was a solid copper deposit. It was 600 pounds empty. And we had to get a special church truck to support the casket. And I wasn't there for the day of his funeral, but I was involved. Like Peg O'Neill, his wife, we lived above the funeral home in a dormitory, and they were divorced. But he said one day, "We got to get rid of that fast-talking Yankee. He's going to be problems." And to get another one of those caskets, because we'll need another one of those before very long. Interesting, huh? Anyway, the casket coming off Air Force One is empty. And I've got that on one of my blogs that talks about the Kennedy, the public execution of Kennedy. I collaborate with another historian, Francis Conley, that has a 3 hour and 27 minutes that connects all the dots about the execution. And the CIA was not Lee Harvey Oswald. The CIA operation overthrow Fidel was called off that detail, and they're brought into Dallas. And that's and they had a special meeting the night before with all the oil people, and J. Edgar Hoover was in attendance. Richard Nixon was in attendance and all that stuff. But that's all in that one blog. But I think it's something that I have learned. In 1960, I was introduced to Demerol. The doctor said, this is highly addictive. I'm only going to prescribe it for the 4 days, and then I was on that. But anyway, fast forwarding, on October of 1970, one of my part-time jobs working on the ambulance, because I had special skills as an emergency driver, so I worked for a lot of different companies, private plus the Minneapolis General. And I got up to go to work on November 1st of 1970. Was unable to, I had no feeling like I had after that hockey injury. And I was in the hospital, and they gave me that first shot of Demerol. There it is again. Demerol being my drug of choice. And the whole month of November of 1970, like I was back in 56, doing all those procedures, and I was released in a full body cast, and I got immediate withdrawal from the Demerol. And my wife, God rest her soul, being a nurse, called the doctor, and he prescribed Percodan. And then his associate said I'd have to, because of the injury, I'd have to take Valium 15 15 milligrams 4 times a day the rest of my life. And Dr. Naran, the neurologist, said the fact is in a body cast, I may have problems sleeping. So here's some Seconal, 100 milligrams, and then if they really have a hard time, take 2. But for 6 weeks, and 6 weeks only, that was my nutrition in the body cast, like a turtle trying to roll around, getting in the bed and everything. But anyway, I bought just right around Christmas time of 1970. I said to Dr. Moran, I'm losing my mind. I feel like somebody pulled a lever on a trapdoor and I fell into the sea of despair. He said, Tim, I think you better go back to back to Northwestern. They have a new unit, Station 64. On January 10th, 1971, I met with this attorney, said they want to fight it. So I went over to Northwestern Hospital and having drove ambulance, I knew the emergency procedure there. I checked myself in through the ER. I called Dr. Rand and I said, make sure I get that Percodan, Valium, and Seconal. They put me on the medical floor. The next day they said, your room is ready. I was so into the insanity that all the medications driving my mind crazy. And I got off the elevator. I thought I was going into a locked ward. And having drove ambulance, I'd been to state institutions on the service of committing these folks and stuff. And I thought I'd hear the gates click behind me. And I'd be fitted for a tight-fitting pajama, you know, the restraints, and then pointed towards the sun and then put it back in the bed. But anyway, I heard the nurse saying, are you trying to kill that man? And anyway, because Dr. Sundberg, Dr. Naran, and were there, and all. Anyway, they took me off everything cold turkey. For 72 hours, I was wired coming off all that medication. The room was breathing audio and the visual hallucinations, and I was perspiring. I was so toxic, my lips were almost like purple from the barbituric poisoning. And then I had cold packs under my arms because they were just like raw, like somebody took a Brillo pad and scrubbed underneath my armpits. Then finally, this other guy came in. This Pat Fallon went on to be EPA for the city of Minneapolis. The nurse said, okay, you two, she gave us both chloral hydrate. She said, okay, you two lunks get in the bed because otherwise you're going to fall flat on your rear and I'll be damned, I can drag you two into bed. So anyway, that was the first time I had sleep in 70 some hours. But anyway, it's just, I went through treatment and the 28 days, it was 1 through 5 and out the door. And I talked about the counselor. I said, what's this about A? He said, go until you want to go. What's this about the big book? Read it till you find yourself. But anyway, I finally, I got involved in recovery, and I even went on, and one of my part-time jobs, being a mortician, became a full-time plus. And then I designed an outreach program about death and dying, and that opened up another appeal. And I finally had my day in court, and I was awarded 2 years of vocational rehab. And I found a program at the University of Minnesota Experimental College for all for they call this high achievers. And I was able to find out exactly what I wanted. I met Dr. Kubler-Ross, who was at a workshop, and she said, I would be honored. And I had studied with Dr. Kubler-Ross, and the 5 stages of the dying, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, are the same thing people go through any kind of a transition. And I came up through the years, I worked on a 4-leaf clover. The 4-leaf clover being your mind, your body, your spirit, your social, the roots being the family. And I've through all these things that come through my life. And when after the Humphrey funeral was paramount of my profession in 1978. And that's when I went back to school. But I left funeral service in September 1985. And I worked in behavioral health down in Arizona. They offered me a full-time position. I called my program advisor to take it. We'll do all the paperwork and send you all the necessary paperwork and your diplomas and stuff. But anyway, I started out with adolescent inpatient, adolescent outpatient, adult outpatient, and then I was handpicked on the staff, and not to break confidentiality, though. I worked with impaired physicians and dentists. And these guys were writing their own scripts, and every one of them had started in medical school on amphetamines. That's how a lot of them, that was a big phenomenon of the 60s and so on. And then all of a sudden, one day, the hospital went from, I had a guy that came into our clinic, and I had to send him downtown for assessment and do all the paperwork. And he called me, he fell off the radar. And he called me a couple days later. His mouth was just, how's the tell you? They told me to take me off the meds. They got on more. Anyway, they had started a new division at the hospital, physical medicine. Anyway, and then all of a sudden they got a new administrator. They had a special banquet for us. And I was like, Columbo, I'm a little confused here. We've been taking people off meds and now you're putting people back on meds. Anyway, that was 1987. That was the start of the psychopharmacological phenomena and the start of the climb of big pharma and antidepressants and all that stuff. And this is something, doing my timeline, there are no accidents. Like I say, when I do my motivational stuff, life is a journey, not a destination. Fasten your seatbelts and come along for the ride. And we do our timeline, do like become a chance to become creative. Do a timeline like a scrapbook or yearbook, or do all connecting all the dots. Eliminate the negative, but it's, even have to fake it sometimes. You want to be what you want to be. Put that in your background. But I said, in my life, there are no accidents. All those speed bumps that came along that made me where I'm at today at 79 years old. I'm on 0 meds. Doctors hate me. Pharmacists miss me. And just before I was talking, before the show, I talked with Patrick. I came back to say goodbye to my dad. He was in a locked door. I said to my wife, I'm depressed, just figuratively speaking. And I went to this doctor. She prescribed Zoloft and then referred me to adult psychiatry. And then anyway, that was November 1st, 1997 to February 15th, 2005. I was literally lab rat on 20 different meds, literally from Ambien to Zoloft, and the CPAC, the hip, the sleep, and all that kind of stuff that went down the line. But anyway, that's about the starting point. And I've gone through total transformation. My daughter took a picture with my grandson back in August of 2013. I said, my God, that's me. I was 220 pounds, 42-inch waist and all that. But that was the inspiration. I took nutrition classes, started reading labels, and they don't even get on those aisles anymore. I eliminated the factory farming. I worked the produce section and a few dairy products. And I started a program. I was losing 1 pound a week. So I was able to it came off, and it's been staying off, and I just have a regular routine now. I'm so healthy, I probably to some am obnoxious. Like my one daughter said, Dad, this isn't fair, you're trimmer than your daughter. But anyway, I think this is a starting point. I've had a spiritual awakening. And as someone along the journey, I met some kind of interesting conversation with Dr. Jeffrey, his name is, anyway, that he does the, you do the sound earphones, and he does the audio sounds, you get that balance and stuff. It'd be interesting to have some of those tapes we can play from time to time, and just give people kind of baby steps. Get away from big pharma, get away from the medical and industrial complex, and kind of like I've worked through with acupuncture and Eastern philosophy. Hopefully we can awaken the West one by one, because the control that's going on in America and all across the globe. In the last 4 months, the Power Cabal could bring down the economies, the people going around with their masks. Isn't that breaking your freedom of speech? I don't like this. I don't like to feel I have to wear a dirty diaper. And that's just, I heard that. That's the way I describe it. And it's just something, that's what it is. We need to breathe through our nose and exhale our CO through our mouth. That's a perfect way to control the populations, what the Power Cabal wants to do. James Colbert did a perfect essay on Bill Gates and his Power Cabal. And with his kind of money, is spreading around in all the negative directions. And I think it's finally that's I think we still can. We can, we will, we must take back our globe. And I think that's just the three of us here today is a starting point. We are the new trilateral.
Well, no, that's why I wanted you on, because when I thumb through the inbox, and yes, I always look at the LinkedIn folks that want to join some. They want me to add me to the community, right? And but in all, they just want me to buy something. So I said, and then I look at your profile. I go, oh my gosh, I got to talk to this guy. So yeah, no, I learned a lot from what you've said here, because you, you know more medicine than what gets taught in medical school because one, you had to take it.
Yeah.
And somehow you lived. You shouldn't actually be alive still because you've been overdosed on, just call it drugs, and then and prescribed to you by these guys you're supposed to trust called medical doctors. But they were trained that way. Just from this is like Patrick will tell you, it's like Rockefeller medicine. It's all pharmaceuticals, pill for an ill, and so but yours was many pills. And I'm shocked that you're still alive or your brain's still working, but you're 79, in great health. You're not taking any kind of meds, and you're doing all these great things in the world. And so go take this one step further. Like a lot of folks out there, everyone's got their experiences and things like that. But in our current times right now, Tim, what's the best way to get people's attention? Because, a lot of folks are so boggled down with fear and at home, and, a lot of these are intelligent people. A lot of people have lost their jobs, their businesses, their livelihoods. So one, they don't have any money. And, without money, you cannot buy great food. And so you become more indebted, more, in debt to the powers that be. And so a lot of folks have given up their autonomy, and they're asking the government, save me, save me, save me, give me my $1,200 trickle down check or whatever. But they're looking, they're not taking responsibility over their lives. They're waiting for something to happen. And I just see things continually spiraling downhill. And like we were talking the other day, you can just feel that tension in the air. That I can just feel some violence coming up here because people are getting pissed, and they're not liking where they're going. But they're not taking, responsibility for their lives. They're waiting, and no one's going to save them. I think we have to save ourselves. So, what's your take on this? How can we dig our heels in and be free, and actually maybe change this darn political system here? Because as you well know, Patrick and I are running for a co-presidency. I think we can do a better job. It's just that I just think
be your VP.
Yeah, you take the politics out of the equation, and all of a sudden, wow, we actually have to do good work for everyone. Oh God, and then you get the lobbyists out of there and all the other interests out there, and think about only what benefits people, creating a world that works for everyone, leaving no one behind.
The unfortunate nature of that is that we have to contend with the international bankers and the international financiers, because they are the ones that are really behind the scenes of all of this. And until there's some strategy with regards to that, it's the...
Yeah, it's easy, but it's like we have to have a change of leadership, and that's what you are, Tim. That's what you are, Patrick, and Slam. And
that's like when I researched too, I said, know your history, follow the money, start connecting the dots. And it's all right there. The Federal Reserve is, if there's going to be a shutdown of the Federal Reserve, it's just the times are just right. Just really right now, America's in bankruptcy. The Federal Reserve is in debt. The Power Cabal, the Rothschilds, they control it all. And there's, I think of the 5 sons, I think there may be maybe 4 or 5 left, or not the 5. I know. The Balfour Declaration, that's the 100th deal they had a few years back, and Lord Jacob Rothschild was interviewed at his French manor, and that, 67 words that changed the whole landscape of the Middle East and all that stuff. And the Zionists, that's the powers in the shadow government.
Right, exactly right.
And anybody that's in Washington now has to be a member of the Zionists. Cynthia McKinney, I spent a couple of days with her a few years back when she was running for president. She told me how they ran her out of Congress. She was on this special committee that was interviewing, what's the guy who was in the Department of Defense? Rumsfeld. And about the 2.3 trillion or whatever was missing. And also again, what was the question? But anyway, it's just that we got to take back, we got to be safer at home. We got to get out of the military-industrial complex, to get out of the medical industrial complex. That's just bringing down the planet. And Dean Wickington, I follow his stuff every Saturday. He posts about the geoengineering, people can start looking up and capture what you see. And this is we're on planet Titanic. That's a whole kind of scary deal. But
how far down the rabbit hole have you gone? Have you touched into the let's say I guess we could say the metaphysical realms, or what some have described as being the Archon agenda or the alien agenda?
Because it's a good point. When I worked at St. Luke's, they said, check out this New Age stuff. And I went over to Scottsdale, and this Zen Buddhist was there. Mm-hmm. And we're sitting in a theater, and he had us close our eyes, and all of a sudden, and all of a sudden, click. I had my eyes closed, yet I was able to see. And that's when I realized I had a left and a right brain, and that was a starting point on that journey. And I have a daily meditation. I have my 4-leaf clover, and I just after having my breakfast, I go up like this. My mind is too beautiful for space to waste. I'm being good to my body through exercise and nutrition. I'll heart of gratitude. I look up and I move to my soul. Having found my inner peace, I reach out to other people with love and compassion. Never judge that person unless you walk 2 moons in their moccasins. Listen to the glory in their story. Look for the good in other people. Finding the Chinese word Qing is the art of listening. 3 symbols: the eyes, the ears, and the heart. It didn't say anything about the mouth. Shh, they had to listen for the glory. But anyway, then never let the sun set on your anger. Reconciliation for those above the ground. Closure for those below the ground. May they all rest in peace. Amen. And that's like with the astronomy and astrology and the harmonic conversion. Mm-hmm. And just getting people because I used to have breakfast with where I live now, over in the home on Sundays with Monsignor Lavin. Monsignor Lavin taught theology at the University of St. Thomas. And I told him it was like to have near-death experience, and that our stars were part of the heavenly body. And he said, Tim, I would have loved to have you in my class, but you make a very valid point. He said the Catholic Church has studied astronomy and astrology. Those are divine measurements. And we got to awaken the people and get them on track and get them off that psycho-wacko track. Or even that this mask is just another way of control. That's just to talk about freedom of speech. That's become an industry. I see these people, and I don't try to engage when some of them confront me because I refuse to wear a mask. But it's just that there's a lot. That's where a starting point. And now how they demonize that, you're talking down, the masks are essential and all that stuff. And that's not the lamestream media. I call it the four power walls. But we are a starting point right here. This is ground zero for us to expand our cause. This is we can work on the law of attraction promotion. Just one by one, awaken the sheeple. And that's just how they look. I like to get a mask with the deal where you look like a sheep. And I even got a mask here. I'll show you this. Here's my mask.
There you go. Dr. Randall, it's a Halloween mask.
Oh, it's a Halloween mask. God, I've been on that mask, and God, my nose has been bleeding. My mouth is all ulcerated. But they said it'll help me protect me from the virus.
Yeah. No, I was telling Patrick I wanted a hockey mask, but no one can get me one around here. But no, we're forcing Washington State up here. Our Democratic governor is saying, well, you have to wear one outside as well as inside your home. And of course, you've got running around in their cars with these masks on. I go, wow, look what we've become. You're talking, you've given up and you've agreed to slavery and you're happy with it. I cannot tolerate this, because the folks just don't know where this is heading, and it's going to worsen because look, whatever is said by this the bully Bill gang, his vaccine army and all that he's basically running public health in our country as well as the world, and everyone's listening to him. They go, and so
and multiple vaccinations is the latest soundbite, and the guy's not even a college graduate. But this guy, how he got started.
Yeah, I have an interesting, and I was talking to Dr. Randall about this the other day. Being a software engineer and coming, when I started to get into the field in the 90s, he was not a popular guy in software engineering circles. He was known for basically, he's been working. It's almost like Rockefeller in the history of the Rockefeller philanthropy, we'll call it, rejuvenating his image. Like everybody that they thought back in the day, software engineers and such, thought he was the most mischievous, just dastardly, cutthroat individual who was more destructive to the field of technology and software engineering, and through these monopolizing operating systems and stuff like that, because we were already riding on good development platforms that had been around since the 60s, Unix in particular. And but there was there's a whole mess with regards to the world of Unix, but there was the what started to rise up around the time in the 90s was Linux and the Free Software Foundation, open source and all that stuff. And Microsoft and Bill Gates attempted to crush that. Literally, they wanted to crush their competition and monopolize the entire technology sector. And they still do. These patents that they're coming out with, with regards to Microsoft and biometric identification and things like that. Nothing has changed. He just puts on I'm a humble sweater wearing innocent guy who just wants to stab you with the most toxic substances on earth under the guise of saving you from a fake pandemic. I mean, those of us who have our heads in the game over here researching and knowing what's going on, man, it's and Tim, I'm sure you can relate, and it gets frustrating because you're like, oh God, all you people out there, you have no idea, not a clue about what's really going on, and it's just they're lining up to the slaughter, essentially, and of course they've got the political divide orchestrated wonderfully, so perfect, because everybody left and right, Republican, Democrat, are fighting over Trump and Biden, and while at the same time, the people behind the scenes, they laugh about all this. Now, I will contend that, that Trump is a political outsider, and I think he was purposely set up to be a fall guy, to usher in, the other side, as would be, but the thing that's happening is they are all, in essence, bowing to Fauci and Gates, and there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't know. But at least per the tweets that Trump comes out with, there is some element, conspiracy related element. And I know that Brad Parscale, his former campaign manager, was a truther, so there is some stuff that's coming out, and the fact that he was such a wrench in the machine in the beginning, you know what I mean? Because he as Caitlin Johnstone will say, he he was very transparent. So you got to see the ugliness of everything that was going on behind the scenes. And I personally don't have a personal opinion or anything like that, but it's just fascinating. And I think I'm a big believer that things do happen for a reason. And we're in the year 2020, and you could look at 2020 from a spiritual perspective, where we're talking about 2020 vision, and this is the year when a lot of this stuff is now bubbling to the surface, and there is a global awakening going on. I know this because my life was one of supernatural experiences and metaphysical occurrences as I was going through my things that I didn't even believe could happen. I was just a software engineer, and I was writing software for doing paperless inspections on nuclear power plants, and so I didn't expect any, if you would have told me there was a conspiracy, I would have been like, okay, well, bye. At that time. But now, of course, having my life flipped upside down, my eyes are wide open. So, but the thing is, people it's easy to get with that political divide and rule. It's a tactic they've been using from time immemorial. You dig a little in Trump's relationships in the past. Now, I know, I don't believe in cancel culture and all that kind of stuff. So people have had past experiences, but there have been Rothschild connections there with regards to his earliest gambling ventures and his purchases. But at the same time, the CIA and that entire network, the cabal, has their hands in everything.
Yeah.
Everything. So you are not going to be rising up in any position in terms of financial wealth without bumping elbows with, you know, the elements of the cabal, the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and, you know, the 10, 13 families out there. So it's just a very interesting thing that's going on. And I, you know, it's just interesting, but people can't see past the politics. They just can't. And that's the most infuriating thing. They just, and I was on you know, I'm not going to go on and on over here, but and I'll give it back to you guys. I was on, I spent a lot of time kind of, I guess you would say, duking it out, but not necessarily duke it out in the comment sections on certain news sites, because the people there have their head in the political game. One thing I noticed in terms of left-wing oriented sites, like in Houston here, we have News 2 Houston or KPRC, and I spend a lot of time there observing and seeing how people react. And they embrace the pandemic wholeheartedly, and they end every single one of their comments that they make with some sort of political statement about Trump, and he's the cause of this and this and that. It's literally like they strap on blinders. And they're hysterical. They get hysterical. It's like they can't move beyond that hysteric. They can't see the bigger picture because they're so hysterical in their political viewpoints that they literally, and they see everything through this political lens that blinds them to the truth of what's going on. And it is so mind-blowing because it's, you know, and the job of censorship that's been going on has been spectacular. And you couldn't have asked for better results than what has been the orchestrated dumbing down of this country that has been going on for decades. Because we're seeing the sum total results of all those machinations that the cabal has been heavily invested in. And I know, Tim, you've probably read Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, and all of it has been laid out word for word. Dr. Randall, I'd sent you a giant email, which was the entire, did you ever read through that?
No, my head's clear now, so I will do that today.
Check that email out. It's long. It's, I mean, book-wise, it's about a 60-page pamphlet, but and it has a very interesting history, and it's related to the CIA. You'll see because it was from I think it first came about in the 70s. Am I correct, Tim?
Yeah.
The 70s?
The CIA, you mentioned the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. You know, those are such powerful words. You know, the Kennedys would have had 8 years of Jack and then 8 years of Robert and then 8 years. We would have been the envy, but because Daddy Bush said, wait till I get my boys after the Kennedys. Well, the Bush boys couldn't hold a candle to the dedication, and they really that came from wealth, but they wanted to be part of We the People. And that's the way it is. We the People, and I ran for mayor of Minneapolis. The political party was We the People. The three most powerful words are We the People. I even carried a resolution as a delegate to move to amend, and then all of a sudden there's a shutdown and lockdown and all that. That was perfect timing to slam the door on us is what they're doing.
Yeah, and I think sometimes that we're in so deep because, as I point out in a lot of my writings and stuff, when you really dig, and you find out that the Federal Reserve is running the United States of America Incorporated, and then the IMF is running the United States, all capital letters, as signifying a corporation. And that, of course, we know who is connected to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and has the Rothschild family all over it, including the Federal Reserve. But that was all exercised through J.P. Morgan back in the day. So, you know, and that allows, people like Lord Jacob, at this point in the game, as you see him wearing his innocent brown sweaters, and he's just a regular guy that lives, and he's shaking hands with all the politicians, you know, orchestrating from the shadows. And that's one of the ways that you can't pin anything down on them. I mean, it's just really, it's remarkable. And once you get past that hurdle, investigative hurdle, and you start to see the bigger picture, it actually, there becomes a sense of practicality to it in a sense. It's not as ridiculous as it seems when you first look at what they call a conspiracy. And of course, we know where the term conspiracy comes from, the CIA, because they wanted to deflect against anybody looking into why John F. Kennedy was literally made an example of and had his head blown open in a public execution in front of anybody who might have an idea of anything that they might want to do to the real power structure behind the presidency. Now, the government as it is, if, say, Dr. Randall and I were successful into this dual presidency, well, guess who is more successful to hold things over our head are the real power people behind the scenes. And including in this, you know, the power structure that in place would have to be completely abolished. Totally. We're talking completely abolished in the original Constitution, not everything that was modified from 1868 onward. The original organic Constitution of the United States of America would have to be re-implemented in its entirety in a more Jeffersonian approach to government. All that stuff could be re-envisioned. All of it, really, it truly could. And it would take time, but right now it's the same. It's like a lot of people, when they look at, they don't realize that who's really calling the shots behind the presidency, no matter who it is, no matter if it's Obama, if it's Clinton, if it's Bush, if it's Trump, who's always in the cabinet, who's always the advisors? Goldman Sachs. And there's a reason for that, because the presidency is kind of like an empty suit that is inhabited by I like the doorman analogy. You got a giant building and you got a doorman who's dressed real nice out in front, right? And everybody drives by and they're like, oh man, look at this guy with the nice suit on. Look at the building he's standing in front of. What a nice building you got there, Mr. Doorman. But he isn't the one in charge of that building. He's just the guy that comes and goes. The real power structure is what exists inside the building. And it's, you know, and since everything is tied to the control of finance, very simply, just he who has the gold rules. Doesn't go beyond that. There aren't any complications to that saying. In a sense, it's cut and it's black and white, clear as day, crystal, you know, clear. So it's, you know, like there would have to be, and we're talking the machinations for securing the control of international banking began in the United States of America after the Civil War, when the North was completely bankrupt and needed to be bailed out. And then we had the assassination of Lincoln, and then we had Johnson come into power, but he had his own ideas about reconciliation. He's pushed out by a very aggressive, impeachment proceedings. And from then on, and of course, going back to Andrew Jackson's day, they were, the multi-headed snake, the central bankers, always trying to get in, always trying to take control. And of course, we have the meeting on Jekyll Island, 1913 onward. They take control of essentially the government through the control of central banking with the advent of the Federal Reserve Act, which we know all of those senators that signed on to this, Aldrich included, and anyone who posed in opposition was bought off. Obviously, Aldrich. And anybody in opposition would be, bought off. And Woodrow Wilson, and if you be damned, he's going to be signing this into legislation. Of course, the bankers control you. If you don't, then you die, or something happens to your family member. Okay, so that's me. I don't mean to take I get fired up about the subject because I've invested so much time and energy into the investigating the Rothschilds, everything with relation to the conspiracy that's going on. So,
but this is the reason for the show, because you have a wealth of knowledge, and so you, Tim, and in our short time here, I want all this to come out because, like I tell you all the time, is we don't know what we don't know. And what we do know a lot of times is totally wrong, but we don't know that it's wrong. And so that's why I like our show, and then the one on that I have on Pyramid One, because I get to educate the public. And we only have this short amount of time, but one person at a time is just great. But that there's so much that what we don't know. And we're in this time now where we've got to unite and do something. Otherwise, we're going to get swallowed up. Mm-hmm. Now, Tim, what is your suggestion? What do you do on a daily basis, or what is your intent with your blogs and all that? How do you educate these folks? I mean, we talked about this the other day when we were on the phone, but to get them to at least to open up just a little bit before they, because if you come on too strong, they're going to say, oh yeah, Tim, that nutcase. Oh yeah, but let's kind of ignore him. He might be dangerous to himself or others, so, we don't want to, but, before we slam that door, I know you like to bring them along slowly by, one being patient and just kind of, throwing out something. Maybe have you thought of this, or this happened back when?
Yeah, we have an event, Kari and I, she's a union carpenter, and we plan on Labor Day rally in front of the Minnesota Capitol. Getting all the unions, because they've been affected by it, and the unions, they know that wearing a mask, that will compromise your health, because OSHA has that test. Yeah. And then getting all the other people around there, we the people have starting out, because we have a Democratic governor, and he is a coward. Being a vet, he was in the Nebraska National. He's not even from Minnesota, but he's from Nebraska. He's part of the Nebraska National Guard. He resigned so he would not have to go to Iraq. And you talk to any of these combat vets that's stirring the water there. They have the Vets for Peace, have all the vets, the VAs, and all that stuff together. And really, there's the hoping that will start in Minnesota, being where geographically located, will rip across the U.S. And this, like I said about Jekyll Island, November 22nd, 1913. 50 years later, November 22nd, 1963, the public execution of Kennedy. David Rockefeller put out the hit. It was easier to get rid of Kennedy than it was to shut down the Federal Reserve. And that he had executive order, the money was in print, and LBJ did not have the courage to put it in circulation. Who was the first one to visit the White House after the execution of Kennedy? Eisenhower.
Now, that was Executive Order 011111 or something like that, and it was rescinded. I have that on one of my blogs, yep. It was rescinded by Johnson, Lyndon B. Johnson, like on the flight, literally the minute right after he was sworn in as president. That was one of his first acts of the presidency, was to rescind that executive order. I've actually seen pictures of the, what was it, the $1 or the $5? The $5 deal. I got that on my blog. Yeah, I've seen pictures of that bill. So and he was making a move. I mean, that's his to return control back to the United States Treasury. And a lot of people ask me, well, what is the solution to that? And when it comes to currency and control, obviously it would be it would be something that was controlled by the United States currency. That would be gold or silver back. I think silver has more consistency than gold when it comes to price fluctuations. I can't remember, because you also have to consider that the Rothschilds and such, they set the price of gold. So we have, if you look at it, you would also have to have interest-free loans. That way you remove the whole concept of being able to enslave people through debt. So it's just those are some certain steps that could be taken, and we explored. Dr. Randall and I had talked about those. We did a show on currency going back to talking about where it came from, which was back in the right now my mind can't think of the word, back around in Babylon back in the day. And the queen of Sumeria had stamped baskets on coins to represent goods and trade, and then they discovered that they could adjust the inflation and deflation of the currency by printing more baskets on the coin or taking them off. So they've been manipulating it since its invention, literally manipulating currency, and they caught on to this early. Anyways, but the Rothschilds took it to the next level, of course.
Like I said, starting Labor Day and this getting a rally at the Minnesota State Capitol, because we have a Gestapo walls. He's part German. He's not from Minnesota. And he's like you said, the Democratic governors should all be arrested and charged for treason.
Yeah, that's what's going on.
Republican state governors are realizing that we're breaking away our basic freedom, the freedom of speech, the liberty, and all that stuff. Having a mask, it compromises your health. And that's it's the cognitive effect on your brain. That's why these people are slowly eroding over the 4 months now. I was gonna say 100% what you're saying when it comes to the Democratic Party. I'd like to point out because I sit in the center. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I always say to people, that the Democrats are the most powerful
political party I've ever seen in the history of the United States of America, because they have literally steamrolled over anything that's called a Republican. So I don't even know what the Republicans stand for, but I honestly believe at the end of the day, when you have a single meat grinder, you have two different hallways you could pass through to get there. It doesn't matter. You are still going to be going through into the same meat grinder, no matter which hallway you pick, the left one or the right one. It still leads to the same central government, which is it's a uniparty at the end of the day. The Congress and they serve as a corporate board of directors for all these government services companies, which are actually privately owned companies. So the whole we the people part hasn't even been in existence since. Now I know a lot of people talk about the Act of 1871. The Act of 1871 was put out there, and then it was repealed. Then it was put out again, and I believe it was repealed. It wasn't until 1874, 1878. I can't remember when it finally had taken hold. But the government and the politicians we elect and who we give money to, they don't represent and haven't represented the people for the longest time. So that's all a complete facade. And that goes for no matter what label they run as. The running as a Democrat means I'm going to say Democrat stuff that appeals to this group of people out there in order to get the vote. The Republicans say things that appeal to Republican people that will give them that vote from that sector of the population. It doesn't go beyond that. They get into power. They both do bipartisan legislation at the end of the day, and then the president either signs the legislation or sends it back. And that's it. So they're both actively engaged. No matter what they say, you got all these people talking all these games. Look at all the Republicans that said all this stuff when the censorship with big tech was coming down. Like Senator Ted Cruz, who is one of the biggest empty suits I've ever seen. Yeah, he talks a lot. He talks a lot. He always says he's going to bring in big censorship. This guy is in the pocket of Israel, number one. If you look at any of the stuff that any of his legislation with regards to the Texas, AI PAC, but they both are involved in AI PAC extensively. But he passes legislation that favors contracts related to oil and gas for companies that are, where Rothschild and Cheney are all on the board of directors, such as Genie Energy is a big one, to secure drilling rights to parts of Israel, especially in the Golan Heights. And who do we have that was signing over Golan Heights over to the control of Israel, metaphorically speaking? Trump had signed some paperwork saying that the United States was going to recognize Golan Heights as as Israeli territory, because there's all sorts of oil and gas contracts that Ted Cruz had been working on passing to favor drilling by Genie Energy, and all the board members are all from the buddy system going on in Washington, all the big names, and they're all a mix of Republicans and Democrats. It's literally just a label, and it's ridiculous. So I mean, and I agree when it comes to what's going on in these cities, but there's the people that are supposed to be fighting against the Republican part of the country, other half or whatever, do nothing. So they're either paid off or they're complicit. There's and back to Ted Cruz, who talked about, he was years ago, he said, okay, we're going to stop this censorship of big tech and this and that. And did nothing. He did nothing. And they never do anything. He can't even write his constituents back, because I write them letters. I got a letter back from Dan Crenshaw, whose office is literally down the street from my house, which I could go over there anytime I want. I just have it'd be like wasting all my time in the world. And I wrote a letter about the Federal Reserve to Dan Crenshaw, who gave me the most cookie cutter reply ever. And Ted Cruz never even bothered to respond to me. So there, we the people. Yeah.
Ted Cruz is on that foreign policy, and behind closed doors just a few months ago, they signed another deal to give Israel over $36 billion with a B over the next 10 years. $36 billion.
That all started with Obama, and you want to talk about institutions like Black Lives Matter and Obama, and how his skin color was made a big deal, the election was made a big deal in the presidency. And I think that's great for symbolic reasons, yes. And then the guy literally executed the carpet bombing of everybody in Libya. Yeah. Black Lives Matter, are you kidding me? And it's so monumentally hypocritical, and people can't see it. They just can't, because they're so their minds are, everything is division, political divide, nonstop fighting over when this is going on behind the scenes. And you remember what Hillary Clinton was cackling with glee about Gaddafi. Well, I'll tell you what, Gaddafi, that country, Libya, was a beautiful country before they destroyed it. And guess what happened? Guess what was a part of that plan? Gaddafi and Libya was a stopgate to flooding from immigration that would flood into Europe. It would have to have gone through Libya. And this is how I had it explained to me. When they steamrolled over that, bombed the living daylights out of Libya and Gaddafi, destroyed all the structure, any type of government, and then suddenly there were nothing but migrant invasions from those countries going into Europe, which was all part of the plan to destabilize Europe. We know this for those of us who research going back in time and seeing what groups are behind these destabilization efforts, put in some cases right in your face, as they say. What's the saying? It's all out in plain sight. The biggest secrets are right there and for everybody to see. But it's incredible, and it's so, and they're all in it, and they're all in on it. It's not just the fact that they were Democrats; they just happened to be Democrats at the time, and then there'd be Republicans who were Republicans at the time, doing the same, carrying out the same policies that are set by the, ultimately up at the top of that pyramid, the international bankers, and their attempt to maintain or get control of the central banking systems in these countries that don't have it. And then, of course, what they'll do is they crash out everything, and then from the ashes comes the New World Order. So
Iran is not part of the International Monetary Fund.
I know, and guess who's on the list?
Calling what it is, Killary. We came,
Hillary.
we saw, he died.
Yeah, laughing about it.
What a
right?
psychopath. God.
And so when it comes to Iran, they're next. General Wesley Clark I'm sure you've seen that, where he came across that document. The 5 countries were going to be invading, and Iran was the last one on the list. So, yeah, and then, of course, that's why, and I got, whenever, knowing all this, and then Trump came into power, and I was like, okay, maybe we actually have a shot at getting something changing, some information out, and then they started in with Iran, and then he got Bolton involved, and I was like, oh my God, here we go again, literally, but then it didn't happen. So, but they're still trying to do everything they can. Don't you remember, like, Bolton comes around and suddenly there's nothing but false flags happening with Iran. He's gone, and guess what else hasn't happened since then? There hasn't been any more false flags. So it's remarkable, it's incredible. So anyways, but
the false flags, the G4S, it's about 600,000 employees that do all this stuff, Sandy Hook and Dallas and all that, Boston Marathon.
Oh yeah, it's all there. And we, and also when it comes to, just like how the media right now, what they want in this country is a race war, because that's more divide and rule. They want that, so they orchestrate it. You read through, like, so I like to compare the mainstream media, and you've got CNN that, it was just the most god-awful, worst propaganda I've ever seen in my life. Cherry picking stories that favor the narrative, coupled with, the heartbleed headlines, plus the very manipulative imagery that for the article, all portraying everybody is racist, and everybody is, it's mind-bogglingly numbing to the mind. And most of the media is like that. And then you have the opposite version of that, and like Fox News, which is also just as bad, with the conservative twist, instead of the liberal twist. But it's the same propaganda elements that are for divide and rule, and it's madness. Okay, I've hijacked too much of this conversation, so I will sit here and remain quiet.
Now, buzzword immigration. Immigration. Here's my papers. Constitution.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Doc.
No, I love learning from you guys, because whatever my cursory knowledge is, you guys really dig down deep for details. But I like where all this stuff is going, because, like I said, there are other channels like ours here, and like my radio show, too, and a lot of people out there. But I think we need more of them, and we need louder voices, because we do need leaders, and both of you are. And but see, we're heading down this incredibly kind of narrow slide here, and things are going to get worse. and people are sitting on their thumbs doing nothing, and that kind of bugs me most. Or there are some people that don't know, which a show like this tries to inform them so they can make a better decision. But there are some that just don't care, and that bugs me a lot, because I just still consider this the greatest country in the world, and it's got problems, yes, but look what we have here. And like I said, if you sit on your thumbs and do nothing, you get nothing, and you're going to wait for your next door neighbor. Okay, you go fight for me, and then let me enjoy all this. You got to get your hands dirty, and I just think we have to take a stand, and that's why Tim, I'm so glad you came onto the show, because I wanted you to interact with Patrick, because you guys are that deep into research, and you educate everybody, because people just don't know. You see, and then so what you both do is that you educate, then you inspire, just like the basis of this show, and we have a chance. I believe we have a chance. And
beginning, we got to beat them at their own game. We are the real voices of America.
Yeah. Yes. No.
Yeah, I mean, it's us. It's the people, and in all honesty, they've. Dr. Randall, just wait until you read that long email. Whatever you do, try to, I can't tell you what to do, obviously, but if you could, try to do that within the next couple of days while this conversation is still fresh in your head.
Because, I'm going to do it when we get off here. I'm going to go do that.
Because you're going to see that this has been planned. This is all orchestrated, everything. And it's carried out through the control of the narrative, because we shape our worldview by that narrative. And people, like everybody look at down the street, look at your neighbors, talk to them. Where do they get their knowledge from? Where do they get their information? Through the mainstream media and the newspapers, which is all, it's mind control. And that's what it is. You'll see it laid out in that document that was discovered in that copy machine that was purchased, that they had discovered it on accident, that it was government surplus. And they found this document inside of the copy machine. And it ended up being this CIA document related to how they're going to manipulate society, essentially. And it talks about the Rothschilds. It talks about, the control of the currency. It talks about the planned destruction of the family unit. Do you want to know why they want to destroy the family unit? So that they could take control of the education of children. They don't want parents passing down values to their kids anymore. They want the system to teach kids values, whatever values they want. And so that's why, one of the greatest things that happens is the public school system being shut down, because now people have to take education into their own hands. And I think that, if you ask me personally, the public education system is indoctrination, and it's always been that way. And it doesn't matter if it's Betsy DeVoe or whoever is in charge of it. It's the same game by the same centralized system, by the same central government. They're not there to make education better or worse. They're there to carry on the rule book as established by the CIA. It doesn't matter if she's a Republican. It doesn't matter if the person before them was a Democrat. They carry out the orders of the cabal. That's why they're there. If they don't, they're dispatched with. They get rid of them, or they gun them down in public. They're assassinated, or they commit suicide by shooting themselves twice in the back of the head.
There you go. Yeah, that's hard to do, but it's practice, right? But that's what I mean. See, it's I think we can do a lot better, and all that. And like I said, I don't like being pushed around. I don't like being slaves. And those folks, so you're talking about that percentage of that 1% that are so powerful. But what my contention is that we're the 99% plus, and with leaders like all of us here, and us creating more and more leaders, we can affect change not only at a national level but an international one. I don't think we can ever topple the Rothschilds and Rockefellers, their families and all that, but we can bring light and education to all the masses here, and to let those folks know that are standing above us that they know that we know, and we're going to do something about it. And I think that we can, because look what we're talking about right here with both of you especially, so deep into the education. And while we're on this show, it's because we don't want to be steamrolled, we don't want to be enslaved, and we're going to do something about it. But we can't do it alone. But we have to do it with everyone contributing, because it's sitting on your thumbs. You are going to get steamrolled, and you are going to get depopulated. when you look at, the bully Bill Gates gang, I mean, what's so different than in him and Hitler, just that he's just richer. Okay, but that makes it more dangerous because, you have this Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that doubles their wealth with, as a nonprofit, doubles their wealth. So, it's got, I don't think that's good business. Well, and then you guys could probably answer this too when you talk about the Rothschilds. Gates's mother is from the Maxwell family, banking family. Okay, so he learned banking from the mom and law from his father, along with the eugenics part, and then you got him. Okay, so like I said, it's going to take a team, to lead, and we're all leaders. And I like what we have on the show here because we get to educate everyone. Say, hey, you want your freedom, you got to fight for it. I mean, it's you get your hands dirty. Your neighbor's not going to do it. We got to do it together. So Tim, can you tell us more about where people can find you, like your blogs or website, or where people might be able to either contact you or find out more about what you're doing, so they can.
And I will definitely have that information. Also send it to me in an email, and I will have it placed underneath your name to make sure, and also the write-up on YouTube. I'll make sure that we have everything from you so that we could direct all the traffic and whatnot to you and everything like that. So that would be good.
Patrick, could I send you that one deal that had the links in the body of the deal?
Yeah. Okay, you use that? Okay, that'll work.
But just people listening, here's a chance for you to roll up your sleeves and dig in the dirt and bring out the dirt. This for the take-home assignment for this next week. Agenda 21.
Oh, yeah.
Event 201.
Yep.
Just for starters, and connecting the dots. And also the Rockefeller Foundation, go to strategy initiatives, I think it is, and look at the lockstep. That's what we're on the last.
I have that open on my desktop right now.
Oh, good, neat. And it makes it exciting when you're really seeking the truth. And it's just, we've been demonized. Oh, where's your aluminum hat? Where's this and that?
Yeah,
and
of course.
This guy is the one who came up with this conspiracy nut. Conspiracy is when more than one person works on an evil act. How many people are involved with 9/11? How many people were involved that knew about Kennedy's execution? The two rabbit holes you're not allowed to go down on. I was blocked on Facebook because exposing that. Dan Henley, I connect with. He's an airline pilot, so we'll have to bring him into the mix eventually.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Tim. And of course, there's a lot that we can do. We could have multiple shows. We could focus. We could even create a new type of show if we wanted to do that, and put out this information. There's a lot. So I am personally appreciative. I know that this is Dr. Randall's new enlightened lifestyle medicine show, but since I've been here since the beginning, I guess as the co-host, I guess I can't really lay claim to it, but we share an equal amount of responsibility to delivering good guests and truths, like Dr. Randall says at the beginning. So I'm equally inclined to give you 100% of my thanks and appreciation for your participation and for dealing through it, Dr. Randall and I, who can accidentally begin talking much longer than we should, I think, sometimes. Well, not so much maybe Dr. Randall, but maybe more me, and I apologize for that. So.
Once you stir it's hard to hold back. It's like you're running down the railroad track. How do you stop a speeding train? But anyway, learning about the America's medical industrial complex. Start going to the pharmacy, FARMC, pharmacy. Do the section. Start, look, nutrition, starting right from your own being. That's why I started my journey. I shedded all that stuff, now, and I'm so full. They wish I was back on meds. Some powers to be.
No, it's been real great, and like I said, we're going to have you back. But no, I want to keep on expanding this because it's so crucial. Because I think people just don't understand that this noose is tightening, and they're kind of waiting for the government to save them. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. And So truth will, and then we all have to unite in
It's like
harmony.
asking for the Grim Reaper to save you.
Yeah, really.
Exactly. You see, and from there, Bill Gates will come to your door, then you're dead. You're dead if he ever shows up. You see, so, enough's enough, and I want people to just take a stand, and truth will do it. But I tell you, you got to get your hands dirty. You got to fight. That's what it is. You got to fight for it, or else literally, our world, especially for our children, is going to be the stuff you kind of see on TV, with all the horror and things like that. If it's real life.
Mm-hmm.
But Tim, thanks so much. And boy, yeah, we're going to get all your stuff, posted. But let's do this again, and find out ways where we can, get a larger audience or get in front of more people, because this is so valuable, and people just don't know. They just don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I want to try to get this out to more folks, and get them excited about stuff, because freedom is worth fighting for.
Yeah.
Freedom is worth fighting for, and there how John Whitehead goes. Freedom is dangerous, but the other side of that is that you're a peaceful slave.
Yeah, I always look at it at black and white: live free or die. Because what's the point? What's the point if you're not free?
It's pretty clear to me. So I said, okay, if
I'd rather be dead than be enslaved.
No, exactly. So I'll fight for my freedom. Mm-hmm. But anyway, hey, thank you, Tim. What a great thing, and we're gonna do this again with a different audience on Be the Change. But we're gonna have you back on the show. But thanks so much.
Thank you.